All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating today. What happens when you take one of the world's oldest, most timeless assets, a rough diamond, and you put it on the newest, most cutting-edge technology out there, the blockchain? Well, let's get right into it and explore KimberLite.
Yeah, at first glance, this really does feel like an unlikely pairing, doesn't it? On one hand, you have diamonds. They're ancient, they're physical, they're a symbol of value that lasts forever. And on the other, you have crypto. It's digital, it moves at the speed of light, and it's famous for its wild price swings. Two completely different worlds.
Okay, so this right here is the heart of the problem they're trying to solve. Think about it. Rough diamonds have held their value for centuries. But have you ever tried to sell one? It's not exactly quick. The whole process is slow, it's clunky. We call that illiquid. It's hard to turn into cash. Now flip that. Crypto is the exact opposite. You can trade it in a blink, 24/7. It's super liquid. But its value? It's a total roller coaster. So here's the big question. What if you could somehow get the stability of a diamond with the speed of crypto?
And that is exactly where KimberLite comes into the picture. According to the source material, it's a project designed to be the bridge, the connection point between these two totally separate worlds of assets. So their mission is pretty clear, right? They're trying to blend the high-tech advantages of the blockchain with the rock-solid, timeless value of these uncut gems. But how in the world do they actually pull that off? Well, it really boils down to two key concepts. The first piece of this puzzle is a word you hear a lot: tokenization. It sounds complex, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. Imagine you take the ownership rights to a real-world thing, like a deed to a house, and you convert it into a unique digital certificate, a token, that lives on the blockchain. It's like a digital proof of ownership that nobody can forge or tamper with. And once you do that, once you tokenize a physical object like a diamond, it gets a special name, a real-world asset, or RWA for short. That digital token on the blockchain becomes your direct, verifiable link to that actual physical object sitting somewhere in the real world. So let's put it all together. KimberLite takes a physical, hard-to-trade diamond, uses tokenization to wrap it in a digital layer, and boom, it's now a tradable real-world asset. Suddenly, that clunky, illiquid rock can be bought and sold in an instant. So let's see how that looks in an actual marketplace. Okay, this is where the theory really becomes reality. By turning diamonds digital, KimberLite is trying to create a whole new way for people to think about them and interact with them as an investment. On their platform, they've cooked up two new kinds of assets. First, there are e-diamonds, which is pretty simple. One token equals one whole rough diamond. But the second one, this is where it gets really interesting. They have e-carats. This lets you buy a fraction of a diamond, so you don't need a fortune to own a piece of a high-value gem, which opens this up to way more people. And all of this buying and selling goes down on what they call the Kimber market. The best part? Unlike traditional markets that have opening and closing bells, this thing is open all the time, 24/7, giving you nonstop access. So we've talked about the what and the how. Now let's get to the most important question of all: why? Why does this matter to someone holding the tokens? What's the actual payoff? Well, first, just look at the sheer scale of this. The rough diamond market is a $101 billion industry. It's massive. And by tokenizing these gems, KimberLite is essentially prying open the door to a market that's traditionally been a very exclusive club. And here's a number from the material that really pops: 11.5%. This is their profit-sharing model. It means a significant chunk of the platform's profits flow directly back to the people who hold the tokens. So this really brings the whole thing home. For an investor, it basically solves all the problems we talked about at the start. You get that seamless liquidity and 24/7 access of crypto, but it's backed by a stable, real-world asset. And the whole system is secured by audited smart contracts, which is just a fancy way of saying security experts have gone through the code to make sure it's safe. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So if we zoom out for a second, you start to see that this is about more than just diamonds. This is really a glimpse into a future where that line between physical stuff and digital assets gets really, really blurry. You know, their tagline really says it all: welcome to a world fueled by e-diamonds. The vision here isn't just about a new token to trade. It's about imagining a financial system where the value locked inside a physical object can move around the world as fast and as freely as information itself. And that leaves us with a pretty mind-blowing question to think about. The technology is here. We know you can take a physical gem and make it globally tradable. So, if you can do it with a diamond, what else can be put on the blockchain? A piece of a skyscraper?
A share in a vintage car? Fine art? The possibilities are, well, they're pretty staggering to think about. Thanks for joining this explainer.